All right, so we are back from our break and we have just about 45 minutes until lunchtime or whatever it is you do, midday. So we're going to do two back-to-back sessions, 20-minute sessions, and let me just describe them for you so that you can have an easy time of that. What I'd like to suggest is that you utilize a method called the breath counting method. So there are two versions of this, and both work pretty good. The Zen version, you count to 10. The Tibetan version, you count to 21. So I would encourage you to take your pick, but the only rule for today's consolidation sessions, that's the phase we're in, of consolidating, deepening our practice, is once you pick, don't switch in the middle. That might sound obvious to you, but it really sometimes isn't obvious when we're learning meditation. We'll sit and we'll go, oh, and you'll get to like 10 and your mind will be distracted and you'll go, oh, well, maybe it's because I should be counting to 21. That's a sacred number or something. The mind comes up with all sorts of stuff when you try to ask it to settle down and focus. And so in case nobody told you this, because this is a class for all levels, you pick your method at the beginning and then you ride it through to the end, unless there are, those moments of trigger or something like that, right? So obviously, like I said before, if you're feeling flooded with emotional material or something like that for this class, take a break, do the walking meditation, do the calm or do a method that feels good for you. That's not likely to happen, but those would be the times when you would shift out and do something else. Or like we said before, I encourage you to find a posture that you can park in. But if you're experiencing pain, for the purposes of this class, do not sit through the pain. We'll talk about that a little more after the break. For now, get another cushion and then sit. That, if you do 10 minutes and take a break to get a cushion and do another, that's still going to be some good 10-minute meditation sessions. Or if you do 10 minutes sitting up and 10 minutes lying down, beautiful. But if you can, we want to get in the mode of parking the mind to see what happens when we let it go through all of its stuff that it do and still keep coming back. So that's going to be our slogan for today. Keep coming back to the object of focus. You could also do a 108 breath count if you wanted to. And that's that is a method. Each of these are going to be slightly different in how they affect the mind or how they train the mind. So I'll tell you the one I like the best, which is the 21 breath count. And in this method, you focus primarily on the exhales. This is a Tibetan thing, but where the evidence-based part of it, that's a Tibetan tradition, right? But the evidence-based part of that is the exhales are when your nervous system tends to relax a little bit extra. Your heart rate actually slows a little bit on your exhales. And so by focusing on that, traditionally, I think they figured out like, oh, you get a little more relaxed if you're focusing more on the exhale. So as I sit, I park my body. I'm going to exhale and count 1. And then I inhale and I just inhale. Folks like me, sometimes I have to slightly do a little count on the inhale too, or else I will totally lose my place. I'll just like space out. So it's okay. But the traditional method is you exhale and you count that breath. You inhale, you don't do nothing. Then I'm going to exhale and I'm going to count 2. Inhale, exhale and count 3. Etc., up to 21. And then all the way back down, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, blah, 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 0. And then let's see, do you count 0? I don't know. It's up to you. I sometimes get this question and I forget what the traditional answer is. Do I say 0 in my mind? That doesn't really matter so much. So you climb the ladder up to 21, you climb the ladder all the way back down to ground, and then You climb the ladder all the way back up and you climb the ladder all the way back down. For me, usually about 2 rounds of those happen in a 24-minute session. The most important part, though, is what happens if you lose count. This is the most important part. And if you lose count, you just start over. You just start over. And this is the most important part. So just one last piece of theory. It's just a mini morsel. But I've tried to pack these classes with all the things I wish people would have told me about meditation 20 years ago. And that is, it's less important that you be able to keep a count through 21 and whatever, and more important that you learn to come back, that you learn to recognize, oh, I'm off my object of focus. And the quality of coming back to the object of focus, that's where the real meditative training happens. That's the stuff that we're training. So the focus will come. You will get better at being able to just stay with the breath, etc. But the capacity to take the mind and go like, oh, wow, I'm really distracted. And I kind of fell asleep there for a minute. And then to non-judgmentally say, oh, well, let's come back to this. That's the neural muscle that trains the ability to focus. And simultaneously, if you do it with that quality, you're training that self-compassion. And we want to get both of those at the same time, because these are the states that we want to be steeping ourselves in while we meditate. This is the good news about meditation, is that you're steeping in a state that then stays with you after your practice. So that's the state that we want to steep in, is non-judgmentally and compassionately coming back. If you're able to stay focused the whole time, what you may not realize is kind of like I learned when riding a bike, is that you're doing micro coming back the whole time, right? That the single pointed consciousness is really kind of an illusion. It's just that you've developed the capacity to foreground and ride the bike very, very steadily, very consistently. So that's what we're going to practice. So that's the 21 breath. The 10 breath that I learned from the Zen, just in case that sounds better to you, is you just count up to 10 and then start again. Count up to 10 and then start again. So I just offer that to let you know there's nothing really fixed in these methods. You could do any of them, but the one I'm going to encourage you to try today is the 21 breath method. And we're going to do a 20-minute sit. And then we'll take a brief break, shake it up, maybe take if there was a question or any problem, and then we're going to sit again right after that. So find your posture, get any props that you need, take a lying down or a standing. If you haven't done standing meditation, I don't encourage you to try that on a full length sit. Try that for 5 minutes at a time or something for your first time. If you take your seat, you might want your hips slightly higher, and you might want to stack that spine up. And I'm just going to do a little spinal ripple to get my somatic body in the mood for meditation. And then when you're ready, just get your seat. If you want to do a little breath work like I am naturally, you could try a few sighs. You could also do a couple of those 2-1 breaths at the very beginning as a way of training that transition. And also just shifting the mind into that relaxed state already, giving yourself a little boost. And then once you feel you've settled in, you're going to just park the body. Like we said, if anything's really painful, of course you can move and adjust. But if you can, see if you can get your body into a position that doesn't have to move. And then begin to let the breath call to the mind. Let the mind settle onto your breath. And when you're ready, we'll begin our breath counting method. So on that exhale breath, you'll count 1. On the next exhale, 2, and all the way to 21. Back again. If necessary, starting over, or even just refocusing the mind with compassion. Well, I'll leave you to it. Breath counting meditation. Take note of your mind. If necessary, bring it back. And take note of your mind and gently let go of that formal meditation, but stay in your seat. Just take a few moments of mindful and non-judgmental awareness. You might even compare how you feel now from how you felt at the beginning of our practice, noting changes in the body, breath, or mind. And if you notice anything enjoyable or relaxing, perhaps savoring those sensations, those aspects of your experience. Then inviting your mind to create a sense of completion with this practice session. Deepening the breath a little. And we'll bring the mind up just enough so that we can check in for a moment, take questions if necessary, take just a moment's reset before we practice again. So taking a few sighs or a few of those double length exhales, maybe stretch it out. Oh. Oh. Okay. How did we do? Feeling good? Feeling groovy? Give me just a little feedback. Wonderful, horrible, somewhere in between. Okay, cool. And any questions or any insights that came up that we can share just quickly, if necessary? We don't have to, of course, at this time, but yeah, much easier this time. Me too. Me and Shayla are on the same track, I think, because this time I just dropped right in. So uh, numbers got very far away. Yes. And different things will happen in there. It's kind of fun as you become a connoisseur of meditative states. You know, you'll notice sometimes that'll happen because you're getting sleepy, which is great. You know, other times that'll happen because you're getting so sky-like. But then in the middle, there's just this like 3, 4, you know, and these are, you know, you get to explore all these different states, and you don't even have to pay for a Netflix subscription. So like that's pretty neato. Okay, non-judgmental coming back was a good cue. Excellent. Yeah, and that comes right from the earth element, right? That is that kind of attachment parenting within, right? It's like, oh, there we go, just compassionately. This is what we're doing, actually. And just like we're learning about how to help train kids and also dogs, it works kind of the same, is you don't punish them for running across the street. You hold a piece of beef jerky for the dog, probably for the kid too. You know, and they train recall because they associate that focus on you with pleasure, with the dopamine rush, with a confirmation. And so this whole idea that we have to like shove awareness into different direct, it's like, no, awareness wants to come home and we can call it home, you know. So yeah, non-judgmental counting practice is always more challenging to keep track of. Yeah. And so that's part of also why I'll give different methods in these within the day. The idea is not that you necessarily have to go and repeat all of them unless you want to. That's a fun thing to do too. But you might find one that feels like yours, right? Some of you might do that calm method, and in comparison, you might go like, "Oh, the calm, I went deep as heck. The counting, whatever. And so my position is take the ones that take you deep right away. And then later you can get into, sometimes the counting is working with a different mental muscle that you can develop, but you get to feel how these different ones affect you. So that's fun. Okay. Lost focus on counting down more than counting up. How interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about that phenomenon. So but this is how mind is, it has these various things that happen. Cool. Lost focus at one point, but otherwise great. Very relaxing. Yeah. And this is the other insight we get, is that it's relaxing to focus the mind. And this is something, if you can take that away, like the point of this is not to think you have to focus on your breath. The point is to think you get to do nothing but count your breaths for the next 15 minutes. And it's so refreshing, because actually, looking at 3 different social media platforms in between planning out what your next business venture has to be, all that's not relaxing. Even though we think, like if you get on the Instagram feed or something, part of us thinks that it is relaxing. It seems that way, but this is much more restful and restorative for the mind. So cool. Returning with non-judgmental awareness. Yes, excellent. And just keep in mind, as you go forth, some days you'll count every number. Other days it'll be total trash. Like you'll get to 3 and then have to go back every time. And all of those are fine, because the point is learning to return back with non-judgmental awareness. So let's do another session. We've got just about 15 minutes, and I highly recommend, like I'm doing, stand up, sit back down, wiggle around just a bit as a little somatical reset. And we're just going to drop in so that we can get this, the joy of doing extended periods of meditation. Okay. So find your posture you can park. Eyes can be open or closed, and most of the non-dual traditions say have them half open, so you can still relax, but you're not going to sleep. Just a moment of basic mindful awareness, not trying to do anything, just being with what is. And then let's work on that breath counting practice. Okay, and letting go of the counting. Once again, just sit in mindful awareness, noting the state of body, breath, and mind. And then giving yourself an internal cue to integrate these meditative practices and to let the mind, the nervous system, the body to begin to tune itself now to post-practice period on your break. And just feeling that sort of organization of the body as it begins to raise you up out of any deep trance states and into the proper state for whatever comes next. Let's take a few deeper breaths. And when you're ready, you can bring your gaze up. All right, short but sweet second session. So hopefully some of you are starting to feel that benefit from being in an intentional space, but also doing numerous simple meditation sessions together. So that's kind of the flavor of today. We are going to take our lunch break, and I'll recommend, if you can, if you're going to eat sort of earlier or middle. We have 90 minutes, so you could eat in the middle and that's fine, but don't eat right before we come back. I will blab at you a little bit when we come in, so just in case you're still digesting, but otherwise, with all the blood flow in your intestines, your brain will fall asleep when you try to meditate. So try to eat a little bit away from when we come back. And if you have a free retreat day, then feel free to do another practice session or do some yoga nidra with the recording from last time or on your own, or do walking meditation in nature or something like that. Feel free to stay in the container. If you're doing more of a householder kind of vibe like some of us, then of course just carry the practice with you and then come back and shift gears when we come back, and both of those will work. But try to do them intentionally and you'll really get the most out of this retreat. I've had retreats where I had to go do an errand on the break or something, and when you do it accidentally, it's no fun. So when you remind the mind, like, oh, hey, I'm going to go be a householder and then we're going to come back, the mind's like, oh, cool, I'm flexible. So yeah, so use your break wisely. We are going to come back at 2:30 and then we'll do 2:30 to 5. We have a number more sessions to do, a couple of theoretical pieces, and it should be really fun. So thanks for spending the morning together, and I will see you this afternoon.